I have a shelf in my apartment that I'm a little embarrassed about right now. It's full of books I bought kind of with the best intentions, books I was genuinely excited about when I ordered them, books that felt in the moment of clicking purchase like the beginning of something, and then they've just sat there. Spines uncracked. I mean, they're just looking at me. And for a long time, I told myself the problem was discipline, that I just needed to be better about actually reading them. But I've started to think the problem is something else. I think I was in love with the idea of becoming someone, and buying the book felt close enough to actually becoming that someone. And then I just stopped there. And that's really a comfortable place to stop. And I think a lot of us are stopped there right now. And so that really kind of turned me into the topic that I'm talking about today, which really touches on the phrase invest in yourself, because that phrase is everywhere. It's on Instagram, it's in podcast intros, it's in the caption of every photo of someone's morning routine with a journal and a latte. I mean, I think it's become so ambient that it's almost stopped meaning anything at all. And because here's what I actually notice when I look at my own life in the most honest way. There's a version of self-improvement that's real, that actually changes something, that makes you genuinely more capable or more grounded or more financially stable. And then there's a version that just feels like self-improvement, that gives you the sensation of growing without the substance of it. And the uncomfortable truth is that the second version is really easy to live in without noticing, because it's not nothing. You know, you're reading things, listening to things, thinking about things, you're interested in getting better, and the intention is real. It's just that the intention without a change in behavior is really just a feeling. A nice one, but it's still just a feeling. And what I want to talk about is that difference. And more specifically, what it actually looks like to invest in yourself in a way that compounds versus what it looks like to just consume the idea of doing that. Now, the first thing I had to reckon with was the way I was using learning as a way to actually avoid doing. And there's this specific loop I used to fall into, and honestly, still fall into it sometimes, where I feel stuck on something. So I go looking for more information about it, more perspective, more frameworks, another take, and it feels productive. It feels like I'm taking the problem seriously. But at some point, I noticed that I was using research as a way to delay the moment where I actually had to start trying something with the potential of actually failing at it. And what I realized was there's a certain amount of information that helps. And then after that point, more information is really just cover. It's a way of staying in the safe part, the part where you haven't committed to anything yet, where you can't be wrong because you haven't actually done anything. And the part nobody talks about is that gathering information has a feeling of momentum to it. It feels like you're moving, but if you look up after a year of gathering and nothing in your actual life has changed, you know, your finances are the same, your habits are the same, your skills are the same, then the information didn't really do anything. It just passed through you. And the money version of this hit me particularly hard when I actually sat down and looked at it. You know, I know a lot about personal finance. I've read things, listened to things, understood the concepts, compound interest, pay yourself first, you know, the difference between assets and liabilities. I could explain all of that to you. And yet my savings account and my investment plan wasn't really where I wanted it to be. And because knowing the thing and doing the thing are not the same category of activity, I had been confusing them for years. And here's the thing about that, though. The actual doing is so much smaller than we make it. The version of investing in yourself financially that I built up in my head was this big coordinated life overhaul. A big budget spreadsheet I'd actually maintain, an investment account I'd actively manage, a whole system I'd wake up one day and implement all at once. And because that version felt so overwhelming, it really just took me forever to start. Now, the real version, though, was starting with a $25 automatic transfer. That's actually what I did eventually. $25 a week moving automatically to a separate account before I could spend it. Not because $25 changes your life, but because the habit changes your life. Because the version of you who has an automatic transfer is a different person than the version who does not. And becoming that person is the actual investment. Now, the habit aspect is real, but I want to say it in a way that doesn't sound like a productivity bro, because I think the way it usually gets framed is almost designed to make you feel bad and make you go out and feel like you have to go buy something. That's not what I'm here about. I spent most of my 20s trying to become someone who works out. Not casually trying, I mean genuinely trying repeatedly with real intention. The plan was always the same: 4 days a week, 45 minutes to an hour, a proper gym, a proper program, and I would start. I'd go a few times, feel good about it, and then life would get in the way and I'd miss a week, and then somehow 2 months would pass and I'd be starting all over again. I did this cycle so many times that I started to think the problem really was just that I kind of sucked and that I was someone who just couldn't stick to things at all. And then I moved somewhere with no gym access, no equipment, no class, no nothing, just 2 kettlebells that I had in my possession. And yeah, I just started doing 15-minute workouts, not because I thought it would work. Honestly, I thought it was kind of embarrassing compared to what I've been trying to do. I really didn't think it would do anything, but 15 minutes I could actually find in my day. I could find 15 minutes on a bad day, a busy day, a day where I had absolutely no motivation. And so I did it 4 days a week consistently for the first time in years. And here's the thing. I've seen more actual results from that than from all those years of complicated programs in those main style gyms. Not because 15 minutes is magical or anything, but because I actually did it consistently over time. And what I realized was the plan I kept trying to execute wasn't designed for my real life. It was designed for someone I imagined of, and I had an imagined version of my life where I had unlimited time and energy and discipline. And I kept failing the plan and calling it a personal failure when actually the plan was just wrong for me. And so when I say pick one thing and do it consistently, I mean the smallest viable version of the thing, not the aspirational version, the version that fits inside your actual Tuesday life. Because the aspirational version that you do twice is worth nothing compared to the embarrassingly small version you do every week for a year. And there's one more piece of this that I think is actually the most important, which is the mindset underneath it all. And I know that word mindset has been so thoroughly ruined by wellness content that it's almost impossible to say without sounding again like you're about to sell someone something. But I mean something specific by it in this instance. I think the thing that separates people who genuinely grow from people who just consume growth content is whether they actually believe that they're capable of changing, not as an affirmation, but as a working assumption that they act from. Because if you don't really believe you can change, if somewhere underneath the book buying, the podcast listening, there's a voice saying none of this is going to stick, you've tried this before, you always end up back here, then every good intention is fighting against that, and the intentions lose eventually. And I don't think you can just decide to believe differently. I think you build the belief the same way you build everything else, by doing the same small thing and watching yourself do it, by keeping the promise to yourself, even a tiny one, and having the experience of being someone who keeps promises. That's where actual confidence comes from, not from believing in yourself in the abstract, but from having evidence of it. And here's the reframe that changed how I think about all of this. Investing in yourself isn't a category of activity. It's not reading versus not reading, or meditating versus not meditating. It's whether what you're doing is actually changing something, whether in your behavior, your capabilities, your finances, your sense of what you're capable of, or whether it's just maintaining a feeling. The feeling is seductive because it's immediate, and the actual change is slow, boring even. It doesn't look like anything from the outside for a very long time. But the feeling compounds to nothing. And the boring small change compounds into something you couldn't have predicted from the beginning. And so the shelf of unread books isn't the problem. The problem is if the shelf is the whole strategy. So those are my thoughts for today. I'm curious what you think. I'm curious what your strategy is, whether it's not the whole system, not the whole overhaul. Just think about the one thing that you already know would actually change something if you did it consistently. Think about the thing that's not complicated and that is uncomfortable to start, because I think you probably already know what it is. You've probably already thought of it while watching and listening to this. And the question is just whether today is the day you do it, or whether today is the day you find one more video to learn about it. I love to hear your thoughts. Love to hear what you have to say in the comments. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the algorithm know that there is some information here worth sharing with others. So please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.